Rain lashed Royce Barrett's leather coat as he guided his horse to a halt outside a weathered boarding house, its crooked sign reading Magnolia's Rest in faded letters. Thunder rumbled overhead, and the muddy ground sucked at his boots as he dismounted. 3 days of hard riding had left every muscle aching, his only thoughts of a dry bed and a hot meal before continuing north to Copper Ridge. A ranch job waited there, decent pay for breaking horses, enough to see him through winter. The money in his saddlebags would get him there, but this isolated boarding house, miles from any town, was his only shelter from the storm. Through the yellow glow of the windows, he saw 2 silhouettes pause, as if noticing him. The front door swung open before he could knock. A woman in her 40s, Maggie, stood in the doorway, her dark hair in a neat bun, her worn blue dress clinging to her frame. Her smile was warm, but a flicker of excitement in her eyes felt out of place. "Well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes?" she said, ushering him inside. "I'm Magnolia, but call me Maggie. Come out of that weather before you catch your death." The interior was modest but clean, with a small parlor and a narrow staircase. By the fireplace, a younger woman with blonde hair, Bertie, worked on needlepoint. Her pale blue eyes widened nervously as Royce entered, dripping water onto the floor. Maggie introduced her as her helper, noting they rarely saw travelers in such weather. Royce removed his hat, sensing something off about their eagerness, but the promise of warmth dulled his instincts. "Much obliged, ma'am. Name's Royce Barrett. I can pay for a room and a meal." Bertie's needlework slipped, and she bent to retrieve it, her face paling. Her eyes darted to a closed door at the back of the house, unnoticed by Royce, who was too hungry to question their odd behavior. Maggie served him a bowl of salty beef stew, its aroma masking a faint bitter scent he couldn't place. As he ate, Maggie asked, "You look like you've been riding hard. Where you headed?" "Copper Ridge," Royce replied, wincing at the stew's taste but forcing it down. "Got work waiting." Bertie fumbled her needle again, pricking her finger with a gasp. Maggie snapped, "Careful, can't afford blood on Mrs. Henderson's tablecloth." The name meant nothing to Royce, but Bertie's flinch and her quick return to sewing stood out. The storm raged outside, rattling windows and flickering oil lamps. The boarding house's isolation became stark, no one else would be on these roads tonight. "This is mighty kind of you ladies," Royce said, though Maggie's high, forced laugh and her words about hospitality rang hollow. Her soft hands and well-kept dress didn't match the rough life of a remote innkeeper. The stew sat heavy in his stomach, and drowsiness hit him hard, too fast for mere fatigue. His vision blurred as Maggie pointed him to a room upstairs, saying, "You'll sleep like the dead." Bertie's sharp intake of breath and another slip of her needle made Royce uneasy. His legs wobbled as he climbed the creaky stairs, each step a struggle. The room was too clean for a place with few visitors, fresh sheets, a gleaming wash basin, no dust. His head spun, and nausea surged. This wasn't exhaustion, he'd been drugged before, and the signs were unmistakable. Fighting the fog in his mind, Royce searched the room. Under the bed, he found a bone-handled knife with carvings he recognized, belonging to Morrison, a cattle buyer who'd vanished 3 weeks ago in Silver Creek. More items followed, a silver pocket watch, leather gloves, a pouch with gold coins. Belongings of travelers who'd never left this room. Footsteps thudded on the porch outside, heavy boots, multiple men. Voices drifted up, "He's a big one, more work than the last," and Maggie's colder tone, found nearly $200 in his saddlebags. Bertie was mentioned too, her nervousness a problem. "She knows what happens if she causes trouble," Maggie said. Royce's blood chilled. This wasn't just robbery, Maggie and her accomplices were killing travelers, and Bertie might be coerced. His hands shook as he drew his gun, the drug making his grip unsteady. He was a U.S. Marshal, tracking this operation for months after reports of missing travelers. Morrison's knife confirmed this boarding house was a hub. The door handle turned. Royce positioned himself behind it as a large man entered, lantern in one hand, rope in the other. Expecting an unconscious victim, he didn't see Royce, who struck him with the gun's butt. The lantern shattered, spilling oil that ignited the dry floorboards. Flames spread as the second man shouted, and chaos erupted. Smoke filled the room as Royce crawled to the window, the drug still slowing him. The fire kept the men at bay, but voices below confirmed more were circling the house. He unlatched the hot window, the storm's cold air clearing his head slightly. Bertie's voice cut through, "He's at the window. Don't let him get away." But then he heard her sobbing, "Please, I never wanted this. They have my sister." The revelation hit hard. Bertie was a victim, not a willing participant. Flames licked the doorframe, and a burning beam collapsed, blocking the exit. The window was his only way out. He climbed onto the porch roof, which collapsed under him, sending him crashing into the mud below. Pain seared his shoulder, but the fall and rain sharpened his senses. Men shouted, closing in. Royce rolled behind a water barrel as a gunshot splintered wood near his head. The boarding house blazed, flames spreading to a barn and shed. Evidence of the gang's crimes was burning, but so was his chance to stop them. Through the smoke, he saw Maggie dragging Bertie toward horses, the younger woman fighting back. Another shot forced Royce to return fire, his aim off but enough to gain cover behind a woodpile. Bertie screamed in pain as Maggie struck her. Royce realized this was a network, with Maggie as the leader, her men as enforcers, and Bertie held by threats against her sister. He moved through the smoke, aiming for the horses. More gunfire erupted, but the storm masked his movements. At the shed, he saw Maggie forcing Bertie onto a horse, and extra mounts hinted at unseen gang members circling him. Royce called out, "Federal Marshal. Let her go." Maggie whirled, snarling, "You've ruined everything." But Bertie's voice cut through, "She's lying, Marshal. I'm Ruth Caldwell, Deputy U.S. Marshal, undercover for 2 months." She flashed a badge, her nervous act revealed as a cover to gather evidence. Maggie reached for a hidden gun, but Ruth shot first, wounding her shoulder. As Maggie fell, a final gang member appeared, rifle raised. Ruth's second shot dropped him. The fire died down as the storm cleared. Royce and Ruth stood amid the ruins, Maggie wounded but alive for trial. Ruth explained her months of watching the gang, unable to act until she had enough evidence. The horses carried stolen goods, money, jewelry, personal items to return to victims' families. As dawn broke, the marshals rode toward town with their prisoner, evidence in tow to dismantle a criminal network spanning 3 territories. What began as a search for shelter ended a reign of terror. The trail to Copper Ridge could wait, justice demanded more work. The road ahead was brighter, with partners like Ruth sharing the fight. The partnership of marshals, not a building, was the true shelter that night.